Hello! Welcome to Coding with JT Turner. Today's video is on Deno versus Node.js. What is Deno? And will it replace Node.js? That's the question. Alright, before I get started, I just want to quickly say all the notes and all the code that I show in here will be in a Git repo in the description down below. And if you subscribe, next week I plan on doing an actual full HTTPS web service with endpoints and everything like that. So subscribe and let's just get into it. All right, Deno versus Node.js. Here we go. All right. This is the deno.land, which is their homepage, and it basically describes what Deno is. It's a secure runtime for JavaScript and TypeScript. What does that really mean? That means Deno is just like Node.js. It is a runtime for JavaScript. It has TypeScript built into it, but it still runs on the V8 engine, which you'll see. How are they the same? Here's the question. So, well, maybe not the question. You don't really care whether they're the same, right? But both of them were created by Dahl, which he was the creator of Node.js as well back in 2009. Both run the JavaScript V8 engine, though Deno is a few minor versions ahead. Not a big deal, probably. Both have a REPL, as you can see here. You can call Deno in the command line, and you can do the same, add numbers or do a split. You can do the same here in Node.js on this side. Also, what you can see is that both of them have the same JavaScript problems, obviously, since they're the same JavaScript engine underneath. If you do a split with a Unicode character, you get two characters. Then the other nice thing is that both of them, you can attach the Chrome debug tools to. How are they different? Well, Deno was written using Rust, and Node.js is primarily C++. The event loop is an actual Rust library, and Node.js's event loop is a libuv, which is a C library. One of the things that make it different and more secure, right, in the sense of security, is that Deno by default has no access to network, file system, or environment by default. But once you run a Node.js script, you have basically all the permissions to do everything that particular user has. So here's a good example of that. Here I got a command prompt, and I already written some scripts I'll show later. But if you do deno run deno/curl.ts, and then let's just do http google.com. You can see it compiles it, and then, oh, look at that. We got a network error. It doesn't allow us to call Google by default. So you have to basically put allow-net. So if you go run --allow net, and then you can even do this www.google.com. So you can limit it to just that domain. Then you can see it pulls down the Google website. Now, if I have the same script that I wrote in Node, so if I go node/curl, and then go https www.google.com/this, you can see that by default, no permissions needed. I can do anything because the user on here has access to the network. So that's how Deno is more secure in the sense of that you have to explicitly give it permissions. All right, next we have top level async await and promises. Here's the actual script I was just running. Here's the one in Deno, and here's the one in Node.js. You can see I can use the top level await. Though where I don't Deno, maybe this isn't the biggest win in Deno, only because Node.js, I believe the top level async await and promises is coming soon. One of the other big wins for Deno is it sticks to browser APIs as much as possible. You can see here you call fetch. Fetch is a global, just like fetch is a global in the browser. So yeah, so it has that. All the file APIs are very much like the browsers, as much as they possibly could keep them the same. So that's kind of nice in the sense of if you're writing a library that can be run on the web browser as well as in Node, then it could be very useful to have it in Deno. Deno has built-in TypeScript supports. You can see here this was a TS file. Though nothing in that script right there is TypeScript, but I'll show some examples a little bit later. The other win for Deno is that all APIs are promises, so all of them can be awaited here like this and be part of async functions, which is awesome. Unlike here, you can see in Node, and in this case, when we were actually going and making requests, we actually had to use streams even more, and streams used all callbacks here. So we had a event emitter, and we had on data and push data, and so you can see it's a little bit more complex in Node versus Deno. And Deno has a built-in test runner. So in Node, obviously, you might pull in Mocha or some other test library, and then also your assertion library. And Deno has a basic test runner built in, as well as some assertions. So these are basically where they're just different ways of doing the same thing. So Deno does loading through ES modules. Node.js does it through CommonJS. So here's, if you were to go here to this code, I wrote some code for, let's see, cat here. You can see, here, server. Here I'm pulling from the standard library, I'm pulling in the HTTP server. You can see here I'm doing an import, and it's a full URL instead of what you would normally do, like here, where you would do a require in Node.js. So there's some advantages to that, I'm sure, and there's probably some disadvantages. One being that the URL might disappear on you, though Deno does have some tools to create lock files so that you can lock it, and you probably also could pull it. Deno sounds like the creator got very encouraged by the Go ecosystem, so I wonder if the same thing's going to happen in Deno as happens in Go, where developers tend to just pull down the package locally in a folder or something like that. But that way it doesn't change from underneath them. So at the native level, one of the nice things about Deno is it's all promise-based API. So you call into the native code Rust using basically it returns a promise. Maybe the downside to Node.js here is that it exposes the V8 API a lot of times for native modules. I'm not a fan of native modules because it just slows down the build process to compile it each time. But if you do need the performance, then native modules do really help. And anytime there's a major version bump in the V8 engine in Node, then you have to end up rewriting or adjusting your compiled modules. In this case, you might not have to do that because basically your interface to Deno is promise-based message passing. Most of Deno is done with raw typed arrays for binary data. I haven't seen a stream library yet, but I'd be curious if one gets written for it. But right now it's just like that. Most of Node.js is either streams or you use buffers, but buffers nowadays are just a subclass of a type array, so maybe they're the same thing in the sense. I think where Node really wins here is, Deno has just URLs, like I said, for, loading in packages. Maybe it's nice because it works very much like the web does with decentralized. But currently it does not support NPM packages, so that's a huge amount, millions of packages that don't work inside of Deno. This being because most Node packages use CommonJS, so it cannot load those, is probably the big blocker. Deno is still very new, not really supported in things like Lambdas and other things like that, other services. So Node has a big win here because it's been around for 10 years. And even the creator said that Deno isn't quite ready, even though the CLI was released with 1.0 version. The standard library is still in 5.2. Actually, I should update that. It looks like they just updated today to 5.3. So, and Node.js is battle tested. So, in the end, I kind of see like Deno is here. Like if you're an innovator and you're like a tech enthusiast, especially if you really want to contribute to the Deno ecosystem. I mean, not a lot of shared libraries are written yet, so you could have a huge influence in how Deno is built. And then if you look here at Node.js is probably in the late majority here, very conservative at this point. There's well-established patterns, though there are new libraries that come out all the time. For the most part, the standard things like Express and Mocha and stuff like that are heavily used and will probably continually to be heavily used. One of the other things I think Deno, I didn't actually put in the slides here, was that Deno has a pretty extensive standard library here. So if you go here to the standard library in the Deno, they have a huge standard library, very much like the Go ecosystem. And Node really kind of worked on keeping the ecosystem really light and then allowing people to do NPM packages. So one, give or take, which is better. Flexibility can be nice, but then also you have so many options in the Node ecosystems. You can build a Node application very different. I would say now, Deno is worth probably learning, I would say for now, but you're not going to be running any production sites on it probably at this point, unless you're a big risk taker, right? So, all right, here's like the de facto standard, which I said, here's just a regular HTTP service. In Node, very rarely would you write an HTTP service using this. You would normally use a library like Express or Happy or some other abstraction on top of this HTTP service. But here's just a basic hello world route, and then here is the same thing in Deno. So you can see just pulling the service. One of the things you might not notice here is that this is a for await statement here, which is some nice sugar on top of Deno, which has this server basically is a asynchronous iterator, so it allows you to for loop through the service. And what really under the hood, it's a generator with yields and stuff, if you know about yields. So the other example I have in this library is a cat library that just kind of outputs the content to the standard out, so you can call the script and pass as many file names as you want, and it'll read them and then output them to the standard out. So you can see here with Node.js, you still have to do it with processes or with streams here. So I did wrap this in a promise, but you can see that it works kind of the same way, in the sense of that you read it and then you resolve and pipe the standard out. So but in Deno, it's pretty simple. You just for each, kind of the same thing, asynchronous for each, but you just open the file for read, make a copy of the standard out, and close the file. So now you probably would have to put some try catches in here. Well, I guess in this case, since the script just ends right away anyways, you probably don't need to worry about closing the file. But obviously, if this command failed, you'd want to still close the file. So you'd have to work on that. But yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. I'll share the code with you guys down below in the description. I want to thank you for this. Let me give you this brief on Deno versus Node.js. I would say Node.js is still very much a win here. Node.js is probably not going anywhere anytime soon, but I do see that Deno and Node.js could happily work next to each other and not really, take one. If anything, maybe they could build on each other. So Deno could release features, and maybe Node.js comes out and like in version 16 starts doing like security by default or something like that. So maybe each of them can take wins from each other, like like Angular and React and the front end libraries have done. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for coming to my channel. Please subscribe for next week's, where I actually build an HTTP endpoints in Deno, as well as maybe even put some authorization in there just for fun. And while you're waiting, you can go over here and you can see all these other videos that are playing. One of them is what I want to, the original video, or the last video that Ryan Dahl had talked about Deno from, as well as the video below it will probably be my video next week. So it might be a week before it comes out, but it'll be a link to the video where I actually build an HTTP service with it. So thank you very much and have a good day. Bye.